What up, y'all? DC Fago guy up here on Carnival Spirits. You guys are talking to strangers. So basically, I had a concept idea for a What You Thinking About video that I was going to do. And in my 2 cents video I was going to do. And since I had two different ones, I figured we'll do this thing live. And I wanted to do it with a couple of my homies on Carnival Spirits. Thus, this is Talking to Strangers. And joining me right now is Shanzi. Shanzi, how you doing today?
A lot better than I was yesterday, man. A lot better after the postpone. I'm getting old. My back's starting to give out on me, so time to talk about one of my all-time favorite artists. He's an artist. He's not even really a rapper at this point, right? He kind of dives in anything. He's an overall artist.
I consider him an artist than I do a rapper. So
yep.
Don Chaos is supposed to be with us. He will be with us in a little bit. He just got home recently. He's going to get some dinner and join with us later. That's the reason we postponed yesterday, so hopefully he can make it. Anyway, on to the topics at hand. So basically what has been on my mind for the longest time is every time I wear a Tech Nine shirt or a Strange Music shirt or I wear my Strange Music charm, you know, the snake in the bat, I always kind of look at it and I feel like I'm not representing Strange Music properly, because to be honest, really the only artist I listen to a whole lot from Strange Music is Tech Nine. Now I do own Prozac's Paranormal CD, and honestly I get like halfway through it and I kind of stop, and I don't know. I've listened to some of his other stuff. I want to try to get into him more. I do like a little bit of Mayday, but the more I think about the fact that I'm repping the snake in the bat, I've had it on my previous car, I feel like I'm misrepresenting it because I really only listen to Tech Nine. I have Tech Nine albums and really nobody else off Strange Music. And that's just really what's been on my mind is, am I misrepresenting Strange Music by only listening to Tech Nine?
Well, I'm going to put it this way. When you're wearing your Hatchet Man hat, who do you think you're representing the most?
For me, I'm definitely representing ICP the most.
And that's the way I look at it, because, you know, Tech Nine, he is Strange Music. Because I'll put it this way, because I was thinking about it. Okay, somebody could say, you know, they like Mayday, they like Ritz, they like Prozac, they like Lynch, but they don't like Tech Nine. So that's almost the same realm of, I like Boondocks, I like Twisted, I like Blaze, but I don't like ICP. Well, then you can't really call yourself, I guess, a technician. I hate that word. I think it's my personal opinion. I prefer stranger. Technician. But so really, I don't feel you're really misrepresenting it. I think you're just really at the core of what Strange Music is and what it's all about, in my opinion. Because Tech Nine will always be my favorite out of the whole roster. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. And this hangout may have a little bit of dick riding on my part. Heads up, everybody.
That's all right. Kind of one of the ways I used to try to justify it for myself is the fact that Tech Nine himself, I mean, you look at his entire discography. I mean, you look at one album from one song to another, it's so vastly different. I look at Tech Nine as Strange Music. I think that's why I always represented it and was always proud to say that I love Strange Music, was because Tech Nine himself was Strange Music.
Right.
He started signing more artists, you know, because I've been listening to Tech Nine since 2008. And since then, the roster has vastly grown. And as they put out new artists, it's kind of like, I'm not really repping any of these guys because I'm not supporting them. I'm not buying their albums. That's where it started to feel like, was I misrepresenting? So, you know, I would definitely say Tech Nine is an artist, and by representing the snake in the bat, maybe I'm not totally misrepresenting Strange Music by only repping Tech, right?
Right. Maybe, because you started listening to him in 08, right?
Right.
See, I started listening to Tech you've seen changes, I've seen a lot, because this was the first album I remember ever picking up when it first dropped, and that was in '06, and I was listening to it since Vintage Tech came out, when he put out Absolute Power. They have Vintage Tech to hold over Forever Ready. So I've definitely seen, me, I've always been a supporter of every artist they've had on there. Every time an artist comes out, I always check it out. And I generally like it, except for Young Bleed. I don't know if you remember when he was on there. You probably don't. I think he sold like 45 copies maybe. But yeah, you don't like Calico? You don't like Chris Calico?
Well, I do like Calico, but the thing is, some of the solo stuff I listen to with him, I feel like, when you watch some of those behind the scenes makings of his albums, he really mentions the fact that he motivates people when he puts them on his song. And I think that statement is true for his own artist on Strange Music, because
Definitely.
I listened to a Collabos album, or I listened to a song on one of his albums that has a fellow Strange Music artist on it. Those artists go so hard.
Yeah.
But then when I listen to one of their albums, it's kind of like that notch is backed way down. They're not going as hard as they did on that Tech Nine album. So I like Chris Calico. I love a lot of the songs that he does with Tech Nine, or he's done with Tech Nine, where he's singing. But I've checked out some of his solo stuff, and it's kind of like that desire, that eagerness to get into it's there, but it's just not latching on.
So maybe you like Strange artists, the roster, but maybe only when they're on a Tech track.
That could be, because honestly, one of my favorite Tech Nine albums is a Collabos album, and it's Strangulation, because that album musically expresses different avenues of music. You've got some R&B tracks in there, you've got rap tracks in there, you've got some borderline metal tracks in there, and that album for me kind of represents what Tech Nine's been trying to say he is that diverse sound.
Definitely. And those ciphers on that go hard as fuck.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying, I've seen definitely a lot of transition, from when it was just Tech, Chris, and Cut. And then, I think it was around, I don't really remember when he started branching out, but he started getting, Big Scoob was signed, and then they had, Cognito was signed, and Grave Plot, and fucking, of course, Ritz and Mayday. So I've seen a lot. Scatterman, Snug Brim. A lot of people forget about Scatterman, Snug Brim. I remember when they first signed. I remember when that shit was going on. I remember it all. So definitely, I think Strange right now, seeing where it was as more of an underground label, I feel now it's like, it definitely is like an independent powerhouse of some really solid artists. Strange Music isn't going to put out bullshit. Let's face it. I don't think Tech will allow that to happen. Regardless of what your tastes are. But me, I like it all. And some albums I like more than others, some I don't. But back to the core of it, I think maybe I hit the nail on the head with you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to like more when the whole crew is doing something together.
Yeah.
As opposed to when, you'll pick up Seth's Crew. Seth's Crew's the shit. That's just looking into Seth's Crew. But you pick up a Seth's Crew album and you're just like, okay, it's pretty much what they did on the Tech track, but where's Tech?
Yeah.
Which Tech is always on everybody's album. There's at least one or two songs.
Yeah, and see, that's a lot of where I think that's where I kind of lose it, is I'll listen to, for instance, I was talking to Chaos about this yesterday when he was free, that I got into Mayday because I saw them at the 2012 Hostile Takeover tour, and I was impressed with their show. I did unfortunately download their first album, Take Me to Your Leader, and one of the first songs I loved right off the bat was Badlands, but of course that's where the album started at. And as I listened, I was kind of like, yeah, this isn't a bad album at all, but there was a point where I lost my interest in it. But there is a nice handful of songs off that album that I do like. But You know, listening to Strangulation Volume 1, that first CD, I actually left that CD with a mentality of, I rep strange music, and I'm proud to support it, because even though I may not like every artist on it, I represent what they stand for and that diversity of music. And that was all because of what I heard on that album. I was like, this album is fucking amazing because they've done so many different songs in this one album, and that's what strange music is. So many different sounds in one label.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, there's an interview I just watched recently. It's kind of a misleading interview, but it just says Tech Nine and then it has a colon and it says racism is taught. So I just happened to click on it and watch it, but at like the 8:59 mark on that video, might have been the 7:59 mark, and maybe I'll post a link to it. But in that interview, Tech Nine actually mentions how he came up with the snake and the bat for his logo, which I never knew why he chose that. I knew he said strange music because of the Doors. I just assumed he went with a snake and a bat because of the S and the M, and it was a dope looking logo. But I guess he put more thought into it than that. The rod of Asclepius, which if you're not familiar with what that is, it's that rod with the snake wrapped around it that you usually see at like a doctor's office or at the hospitals. But basically that's kind of the symbol for healing or medicine. So Tech Nine said he chose the snake because of the healing part. And he chose the bat because it's a creature of the night. It's nocturnal. So he says that he chose a snake and a bat to say that he is the medicine to help you through the darkness.
Mind blown if you didn't know that.
That's exactly what happened to me, because when he said that, he took my thought and my feeling of, am I misrepresenting this? And he blew it apart, because now he's taking that snake and that bat and he's definitely stamping it on his name by saying that he has made music that helps people through the darkness is a 100% true statement. Some of my favorite tracks are on KOD, and they're in the whole section of the album in the whole.
Yeah. I mean, if you also think about it, I mean, his very first album, Angelic, when that came out, I mean, that was the first strange music release. And if you look at it, that's a very dark, very personal, very, I guess, relatable, depressed-driven album. You know, you got tracks like Tormented, Money, Women, Liquor, Hella, Drugs. You got Psycho Bitch, Real Killer, Suicide Letters, which is one of my favorite tracks. I was actually just listening to that today, and those tracks, and This Ring, also I can see that definitely being, you know, when he first came out, he was giving you his pain. He was giving you a relatable message. He was giving you that rawness. So I guess the medicine to lead you through the night, you know, when he started out, he was very dark. And he'll admit he was lost during that time. You know, he got the Liberate Me tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
He even talks about the Liberate Me tattoos now, saying how he doesn't really like them because it puts him back in a place where he doesn't really want to be anymore. It reminds him of a darker time, but that was him. So he was the medicine for that darkness.
Yeah. And that's what I think what a lot of people have drawn to. Because, I mean, I first heard of Tech Nine in 2008. I was going out with my brother and our cousin and her husband, and he happened to have Absolute Power, and he was listening to it in the car. Now, at that point, I had heard of Tech Nine because of ICP, but I hadn't listened to Tech Nine. And the song that was playing was Here Comes Tech and Nina. And, you know, I was kind of digging what I heard, so I asked her husband if I could borrow the CD. And the song that hooked me, and I was like, I want to go buy this album, because the CD he had was fucked up. It was scratched. But the one song that really played clear for me was Trapped in a Psycho's Body. And I loved what I heard.
That's a fantastic fucking track, man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know. Do you know the reason why it's reversed in that? The chorus is reversed in that as a little tidbit. You know why it's reversed, right?
Yeah, he says something about it in Vintage Tech. I don't remember. I know it was Chris Calico's girlfriend at the time that did the chorus, and she passed away. But I don't remember why they reversed it.
I don't either. I think it might have been out of respect for her and the subject matter of the song itself. So it might have been something to do with that. Well, that's a dark track.
It's very.
That's a dark track.
And 2008 was kind of, it wasn't what I would consider my worst or darkest time of my life, but it was the start of it. I used to get depressed a lot in 2008. That's part of what made me love Crimson Creek by Boondocks so much, was because of Cold Cold World. And, you know, Trapped in a Psycho's Body was definitely one that was always getting listened to during that year.
You know, that same album, you got T9X, you got Worst Enemy, of course, I'm a Tell, Slacker. That's just a great album. We can all relate to Slacker at times.
I actually got one of my other cousins. He lived in Georgia for most of his life, so naturally he became racist, and he didn't want anything to do with a rapper, let alone somebody that's black. And I actually got him to listen to Slacker, and he's like, "This song I actually do like." Not though. I mean, I'm a slacker.
Right. Never did I have a lot of dough. We've all been there.
Yep. I think a lot of people will definitely quote and say that Absolute Power is their favorite. And, you know, you get a lot of those fans now that want to say that he's gone mainstream, and they wish they would do more albums like that.
I think at this point in his career, you know, he's 44 years old. And for him, at where he's at right now, I'm going somewhere with this. Where he's at right now, I don't want a 2016, 2017 suicide letters. I don't want that, because when I listen to that song on Angelic and T9X on Absolute Power, it feels very authentic. It feels like that was him. That's where he was at. So for him to do that now, it would almost seem like he's just writing it to give the people what they want, and not because that's what he feels like doing. Granted, he does have songs now like he still gives you that dark shit. I never understood that. I mean, you got Boiling Points.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, hell, you look at Special Effects. One of my absolute favorite tracks, or a couple of my favorite tracks, is Shroud. Dude, I fucking go every time that song's on, like it starts building up, I just start boom. I start like banging my head, giving myself a headache, kind of fucking rocking myself with that beat. And it just goes so hard, and it's dark.
That's the one where it's like inside I'm weeping, and it has the opera singers in the back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he gave you and here's where okay, so Killer comes out, and I don't remember if you remember a YouTuber by the name of Elliot419.
I do.
He did. I remember this. I don't know why. He was one of my favorite YouTubers from way back when, but he got the album and he did a review of it, and he goes, "It's good if you want to hear Tech-9 do mainstream music." And that was kind of weird to me, because I think Killer is like a little bit of a lost gem. I think Killer kind of gets swept under the rug for some reason with a lot of people. I don't really know why.
I don't either.
It was supposed to be his last album, but
really?
Yeah, he was saying that Killer could possibly be his last album. But clearly we're in 2016 now. And,
oh God,
yeah, and I'm coming to the dropping so many projects part. Okay, so Killer comes out, and you start, you know, he's got Paul Wall on there. He's got Shauna from Ludacris's camp. He's got Ice Cube, Scarface, which, I mean, they're not really mainstream artists. They're legends, if anything. But then, let's see, what was it? What was the order ago? Killer, he gets to Ecology 101, which that's a dope-ass collab album. But it also still had kind of those more mainstreamy type beats to it, like Nothing, and it had a blow them all away. But he's still giving you the same message of, you know, fuck the industry. and all that stuff. So then KOD comes out, and people who were losing faith in Tech, saying he's going this, he's doing that, that were completely wrong. KOD comes out, and it's dark as hell. It's his best work since Absolute Power and Angelic. And then Lil Wayne gets locked up. Tech Nine was always kind of like an underground independent secret to a lot of people, and a lot of people were listening to Lil Wayne. This is when Lil Wayne was blowing up. When did fucking KOD come out?
2009.
2009, yeah. So I was like 19. And Lil Wayne gets locked up. So now he's claiming to be the best rapper alive, and of course Tech Nine fans are like, no, Tech's the best rapper alive right now. And then Lil Wayne gets locked up. And then what happens once KOD comes out, Lil Wayne gets locked up, Tech gains some more traction, gains buzz because nobody has Lil Wayne. They don't have that trash to listen to. And then Lil Wayne gets out, and he's doing an interview, and he drops Tech Nine's name. He drops Tech Nine's name in an interview. Of course, he said he was like from California or some shit. He didn't really know anything about Tech, but drops Tech Nine's name. So what comes after that? The Gates Mixplate. Now, the Gates Mixplate is definitely a mix review album. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in order for him to use the Gates name, the Ollie Gates name, he had to make an album that the owner felt represented Kansas City. So he couldn't put songs on there like Horns or Demons or Show Me a God, like the previous LP he had put out. So that right there, when he did that, and I listened to it, there's some good tracks on Gates Mixplate, like OG, Jumpin' Jacks, I love that track. Need More Angels, Harvey Dent. There's some great tracks on there. So I look at it was that a smart move for him to test his waters with this new sound? Now that Lil Wayne had shouted his name out, was he like, you have, because if you think about it, Gates Mixplate, a lot of rappers in Kansas City aren't doing what Tech does. A lot of rappers in Kansas City are more on that Cut Calhoun, Scatterman Snug Brim, Stevie Stone, even though he's from St. Louis, he's still in Missouri. They're more on that kind of rap. So it kind of made sense that that's what it sounded like because it embodied Kansas City, Missouri. And that, to me, was him almost testing his foot, his toe in the water of that mainstreamish sound ever since Lil Wayne shouted him out. And of course, you know, after that, we got the collaboration with Lil Wayne on All Sixes and Sevens, which I remember when he announced that, you thought the internet was going to fucking explode.
That's
like
actually,
I used to be on. What's that?
I actually love All Sixes and Sevens a lot.
I like that when it came out, it doesn't get much replay value for me anymore.
Really?
To be honest.
It
yeah,
is
I like Am I Psycho, Mental Giant, Strangeland. There's some good tracks on it, but it was so fucking long and just, it felt like he had all this exposure behind him. He wanted to make the longest album he could possible. You know, he got Busta Rhymes on there. He got Yellow Wolf, Lil Wayne, T.
You know what? Because he had that feature with Lil Wayne, he knew he was going to have eyes on him. So you know, you know why that album's so long, and honestly, why I think it's one of my favorites. It's my favorite non-collabos album. Strangulation is my favorite, just because of the diversity. But my second favorite would be All Sixes and Sevens, or if you don't want to count the collabos, my favorite Tech Nine album is All Sixes and Sevens, because he knew he had those eyes on him, so he fucking full throttle, baby. He gave it his all in that album.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. Delusional, good God, I love that song.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, I forgot about that track. And Deftones are on there, too.
Yep.
Fucking, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I like when Tech Nine does tracks with T-Pain.
Yeah. I had
I
a hard
do.
time.
I don't know why.
I had a hard time with Bitch. But
really?
Yeah, I had a hard time because of the chorus. Now the verses, Tech Nine's verses, save it. They save the song. The beat saves the song. If I can just get through that goddamn chorus, I'm good. So,
And the way I look at it, it's like he may have changed his sound and his style a bit, but for the longest time during KOD, he wanted to get out of the darkness. He said it's fucking with him. He can't keep doing all this depressing stuff. Like Last Grips of KOD, Last Sad Song. He had Painkiller. He had all those tracks on it saying, I'm done with this for a while. I'm done with it. Of course, he gave us Seepage right after Mixed Plate, but he wanted to get out of it for so long. So for now to see him, hitting the Forbes list of, richest rappers right now, $10 million cold in his pocket independently, I'm proud of him, because,
absolutely.
you got to be proud for a man that came from definitely a fucked up past. And now he's on top of the world with his own label, man. I mean, I think now he's more of a celebration, and that's why he's releasing so much material. And as well as when he got that Lil Wayne co-sign, that's why he did that, I think, to get as much new material out there for new fans as he could.
Yeah, and I guess if you put it in that kind of perspective, I think that makes some of his older fans look at it like you're selling out. You're going mainstream because you're doing music you never said you would. And it's like, what you don't realize is the music he's doing is still him. It's still Tech Nine. I mean, when I listen to Fuck Food, I don't at all think of it as a Lil Wayne song. It's a fucking Tech Nine song.
He's always said he pulls artists into his world. And
yeah.
And he does. He won't get Lil Wayne on a track and he'll do some Drake shit and pretend to be rapping like Lil Wayne, because Drake's just a bootleg Lil Wayne from 08, let's face it. But Tech's not gonna have somebody on his track and then Tech emulating him. You can't say that Tech's not still spitting some dope shit, because he definitely is. There's no doubt about it. The man's 44, and I feel like he's just always constantly writing. And he can write songs about anything. Like on Welcome to Strangeland, my favorite, he talks about how he's like addicted to food now.
Yeah. And what was funny about that is because he got into so much shape for all sixes and sevens, and then he puts out a song in the next album saying, "Man, I just love food."
Italian.
Which, I mean, come on, that's everybody's struggle. You work so hard to lose weight, and it's so hard to say no to something you love. Food.
And, strange music, it's not like he's completely just forgot about his past. He's not forgot about, let's face it, I'm going to go ahead and say it here, he's not forgot about the Juggalos. Because Tech, to this day, I will defend that he would not be where he is at right now if it weren't for the support majority of Juggalos. Because you look at all those old concert footage from, Angelic to Absolute Power, Ever Ready, all that, what do you see in the crowd? A bunch of painted faces, a bunch of Juggalos, a bunch of people in ICP merch. And that's why it pisses me off now when he said, people tell him he's never claimed a Juggalo. He's just always kind of been affiliated and associated. And it just pisses me off when people say, he needs to ditch the face paint. He needs to ditch the Juggalos and all that. But he still remembers that's where he got his start. And I was thinking, on Strange Relation 2, there's not one mention or shout out of Juggalo on there.
Oh, yeah.
But there is. If you listen to this very first song, give me 3 ahs and 2 whoops.
Yep.
Because every album, he always shouts out Juggalos, except for maybe Absolute Power and Angelic, because that was like when he was first getting traction in his start. But ever since Ever Ready on, there's always been a mention of Juggalos.
And you also got to remember, though, too, where he got his exposure to Juggalos was from, being on tour with ICP in 2003 and being on the Green Book. That was his exposure to the Juggalo world. And Absolute Power came out in 2002. So everything past that, I mean, Ever Ready, he mentions Juggalos. Vintage Back in the little skit after each song, the 2 of them where he introduces the Project Edman, he gives ICP and Juggalos a shout out then.
Yeah.
I honestly can't think of any in Killer. I know
They're probably such a long album. There's probably it's in there somewhere.
Yeah. You know, the bonus track fans from all sixes and sevens. He mentions Juggalos and Juggalettes.
The song Face Paint.
Face paint, yep.
But what I was going back saying, he hasn't forgot. He may not be the type of music that maybe Juggalos are attracted to now. I'd say maybe I'm not trying to put him in a box, put anybody in a box, but you know, he's still giving you artists like Prozac. He's still giving you artists like Brother Lynch home. He's still giving you artists like Project Deadman, which they don't have any work anymore. But, you know, he's still giving you that, I guess, horrorcore, darker type music on his label. And that's what kind of pisses me off a little bit. I'd like to see Lynch and Prozac get a little bit more play in the group, because if you look at pictures of them, they're never there. Even in the Strangulation Cypher, I don't think Lynch was in it, was he? Or Prozac?
Prozac was.
In the video?
No, he wasn't in the video, was he?
I don't think he was. It might have been due to scheduling issues. I don't know.
Right.
So I guess the real question would be what Tech's been saying all along. Has Tech gone mainstream, or did they finally let in the dude with the red nose? Did they finally let him in?
I feel like it's definitely they're letting him in because they realize the talent. I mean, this guy pops up on the Forbes list. Obviously, He's doing something. He's doing something. People are going to pay attention to that.
Oh, yeah. You don't just make $10 million independently on your own and nobody pays attention to it. Unfortunately, when it was Juggalos, it was a different story. But that's neither here nor there.
Which, you know, I've honestly said with the whole Tech Nine going mainstream argument, and when he says mainstream is going tech, I stand by and I vouch for him in that argument so long as he does remember the Juggalos. As long as he still remembers the Juggalos, he's fully got my support because that's what I am. I'm a Juggalo, and I'm a fan of his music.
And he doesn't seem like the kind of dude to forget his roots.
No, he doesn't. I've watched so many fucking interviews, and I would love to kick it with him and just chat because he just seems like a humble dude.
Yeah. He took all his homies from the beginning with him, you know, Calico. Granted, what happened with Coke Calhoun, we all know how that went down. Coke Calhoun went out on his own, but, you know, he still has Chris. What I wish with his new album that's coming out, The Storm, you know, we had The Calm Before the Storm, and I think I mentioned it in A Weekly Spirit, where the Storm was one of my most anticipated albums. Because you have Calm Before the Storm and you have this whole discography, and now we're getting The Storm. So what I want to see is him going back and picking up some of those old people he used to work with, you know, Don Juan, Scatterman, Snug Brim, you know, of course, Chris Calico, and, you know, give a little bit of a history to where we are now. We're now getting The Storm. And I just think that'd be dope.
You know, actually, it blew my mind when he announced that name for his next album because I recently picked up The Calm Before the Storm a few months ago now. And I always kind of looked at that album as awesome because of the title of it, that being his first really major release. And then what happens next? Fucking Strange Music. I always looked at Strange Music and everything that's going on from that 16 years that they started Strange Music. That was The Storm, and now he's saying, here comes The Storm. It's like, oh, fucking shit. Just when you thought you were in the storm, that bitch hasn't even come yet.
Yeah. So who knows what's in store, man. And I mean, can we really be mad that Tech's picking up some more bigger names? I mean, are we really upset with Straight Out the Gate? Are we really upset he got Serge Tankian? Are we really upset he got Corey Taylor? You know,
the shit.
I mean, are we really upset about that? Are we? I mean, granted, you can say what you want about Lil Wayne. I actually thought Lil Wayne's verse on Bass Ackwards was actually pretty good. It was
It
pretty
actually
decent.
really was. It was, and I told a guy at work this because he's a huge Lil Wayne fan, and we always go back and forth of who's better, Tech or Lil Wayne. And when that came out, he knew of the song because he goes on and he looks up Lil Wayne, so he knew that Lil Wayne was on Tech Nine's album, and he actually he said something to me about it, and I looked at him and I said, actually, Lil Wayne has an okay verse on that. I like what.
Yeah.
And of course, he got all smug, and he's like, "That's right." I'm like, but and I told him, I said, honestly, Big Scoob had the best verse on that entire song.
Yes, he has such a he has a voice made for rapping.
Yeah.
It sucks his health problems. That's why he's not really doing much right now.
It doesn't necessarily bother me who Tech Nine works with, because I look at it this way: it's going to be a Tech Nine song. And if I absolutely don't like the song, that skip button's always going to be there. The one thing that bothers me with collaborations is the fact that I would love to see him do more with Twisted. I'm still waiting on the Kung Fu Vampire feature.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I've come to grips with the fact that ICP and Tech Nine, lyrically and style and everything, they don't always mesh up. Always. Sometimes they do. So I would rather see Twisted put on a Tech Nine album. I feel like he's been featured on many psychopathic releases. I think it's time somebody psychopathic or Magic Ninja now gets featured on a Strange Music Tech Nine album.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, the last collaboration he did with ICP was Scream, which I'm not a big fan of the original version. It's okay, but that remix, that remix is hard as fuck. That remix, oh my god,
dude, I'm not a fan of remixes. That remix blew the original out the water.
Oh yeah, I think it wasn't Kuma. I might be wrong.
Joe Strange.
Joe Strange. That's it. He did the Abominations album with 7 for Twisted. That's right.
So that's what's bothered me is I'd like to see him put Twisted on. I mean, the last time they did a song together was what? I mean, we're talking Independence Day, right? Is the last time?
Yes.
Bury 'em all?
Bury 'em all, yeah, I believe.
So,
and we don't know how that track went over. That track's dope as fuck.
Yes, it is. And I want to see Twisted do more with Tech Nine. And I can see that they're trying to get his attention. Speculation purely. But I feel like they're trying to get his attention. When Special Effects came out, they posted a picture of them picking it up, giving him props. And I haven't
remember that.
For really anybody else. It's like they were kind of like poke, poke, poke. Hey, we love you. Let's work.
Yeah, they didn't post a picture of them picking up the missing link. What?
No, we didn't. And that one honestly bugged me a little bit, but I got over it.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Tech Nine do more work with Twisted because they have a very similar style and they do bomb-ass tracks. Need some help? I quoted that in Daily Spirits last year as being my favorite collaboration ever was Need Some Help.
I mean, yeah, you got Tech, Twisted, Calico, Mikey Clark on the beat. Prozac, which he actually kind of recycled a verse a little bit. Prozac did. I don't know if you know that from Misery Loves Company. Yeah.
Wait, no. It wasn't Need Some Help. It was it's the song after Need Some Help. Hang on. Let me pull my
Belly.
It's when it gets dark.
When it gets dark, there you go.
Yeah, that's the recycled verse because I heard it too on Misery Loves Company. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds fucking familiar.
Yeah. I guess there's only so much you can do. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But definitely, do you think maybe that now, I'm not trying to throw any shade here, people might take it as that, but do you think maybe now that Twisted is not was psychopathic, and they're trying to shed a little bit of that image in a way. Do you think now he'd be more willing to reach out and put them on one of his albums?
I hope so. I think I stated it in a hangout before, and I think you were in it because you said something too that it always bothered you too. I feel like right now Tech-N9ne is so busy looking forward and looking at where he wants to go as far as whose attention he wants to get on the mainstream level, because he wants people to recognize him, that he's kind of forgetting about the people that he's already worked with that would do dope music with him, but I feel like he won't work with them because he's not going to gain anything from working with them. That's kind of the way I look at it and the way I feel about it. I think that's why he won't work with Twisted, because he has nothing to gain from working with Twisted.
He's already gained it.
Right. That's how I feel. Because they put him on several songs back in the day. ICP helped him out. You know what I mean? They booked him for
He
Gathering.
was on Madhouse with ICP.
Right. He was in Thug Pit, which is a great track.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my pure speculation of why Tech-N9ne won't work with ICP or Twisted or anybody from those camps, because he has nothing to gain from working with them.
And I mean, in a light, I'm putting myself in his shoes, in Tech's shoes right now, because it's like he's always wanted industry attention since the beginning. You know, fuck the industry, red nose, blow him away. You know, he's always saying that I'm dope, I'm the shit, but they won't let me in.
Yeah.
So now that he's finally in as an artist, as somebody, I'm putting myself in his shoes, and now I have all these opportunities to work with people I've always wanted to. And I can, the Doors, he got to work with the Doors, the people that helped shape him as an artist. His fucking label's named Strange Music after the album Strange Days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and to actually get his heroes and his idols in the studio with him to remix a track in the studio with him, I mean, that's amazing. It's kind of like ICP working with Ice Cube. You know, they were inspired by NWA. It's kind of like that whole thing.
Yep. And, you know, I can see that. It's just, I feel like he's lying to some of his fans, because he uses the excuse that he wants to work with people he hasn't worked with before. And then he also uses the same excuse of the beat's got to tell me who to work with. And it's like, I hear songs like, Am I a Psycho? And I'm like,
Twisted.
Where was Twisted not in your mind? You know? It's that
Yeah,
kind
a
of
lot of people
go,
yeah.
That's the shit that frustrates me. It's like, I see this, but you don't. And the only thing I can think of is you don't have anything to gain from working with them again. Because I don't care what he says, he's not just working with new artists, because he's putting on Lil Wayne again. He's putting on T-Pain again. He's doing songs with such and such artists multiple times. So I don't think that's a valid excuse.
B.O.B. He said B.O.B. on a few tracks.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a valid excuse anymore.
Which B.O.B. had a really great track on Am I a Psycho? So, or verse, in my opinion. I think one collab that I've ever seen him do since he's gained the success that kind of made me go, what the fuck? Like, really? What Lil Wayne, I can kind of see. Wiz Khalifa. When he got Wiz Khalifa on something else, that was a head scratcher. I
had never heard of him when that happens. So
really?
Yeah, I had never heard of Wiz Khalifa. I mean, that same guy at work that was obsessed with Lil Wayne, he may have mentioned him before, but I don't fucking know. I don't really pay attention to what's playing on the radio, so I have no idea. I had no idea who that was.
I've loved hip hop since I was like in 3rd grade, so I always know. But he's even putting on a special effects audio push. I know a lot of you, they're an underground act. They're pretty good. I checked them out after I heard them on special effects. Thought they were pretty dope.
Yeah. I just wonder what kind of collaborations he's got planned for the Storm, and that's where that hope comes back of, will he finally work with Twisted? Will this be where he works with Kung Fu Vampire, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of getting back to my point of the Storm's here. Now let's get everything that's happened up to this point. You know, fuck what anybody thinks, you know, get Twisted on a track because they were your homies and you used to work with them. You know, get, hell, even ICP on a track, which I don't know how that would work. Just imagine how devastating and diverse of an album that would be, where you have a track with T-Pain, and then right after that you have a track with Twisted, and then Hobson, and then you got all your Strange homies on there. You got you're working with B.O.B. again. You're working with, I hear, Avenged Sevenfold. He's reaching for Avenged Sevenfold. He really wants to get them.
Yeah, I think that'll work out. I was happy with what I heard with Wither.
Oh yeah,
straight out the gate was awesome.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think that's really, I think, why I appreciate Tech so much. He is very eclectic. He is very diverse. He's probably the most diverse artist I think I've ever heard in the rap world, really, because he can work with the ICPs, and then he can work with Lil Wayne, and he can work with Corey Taylor, and then he can work with, you know, Mackenzie O'Gwen, and that new fucker that's on their label that everybody doesn't like, the Ryan.
That's all I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen that YouTube video of him? I think Strange posted it. It's him sitting on a couch and has his phone. He's looking at all the negative comments on his video.
That was actually a pretty awesome moment, you know. But speaking of Mackenzie O'Gwen, that's not even my taste of music, but I'm going to be 100% honest. Her track on Strangulation Volume 2 was my favorite track on that whole album.
Really?
It really blew me away. I'm like, I think I even made a Facebook post. I was like, it's not my taste of music, but I really love this song. But you listen to the lyrics of it, it fits like a glove, you know? You're acting like you know me when you really don't know. That's a Juggalo, baby.
Right. And they're actually making a video for that track, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's been hanging out with Tech, and of course it's Travis's daughter, so.
Right. I don't know.
And
for me, it was listening to her on KOD, listening to her on All Sixes and Sevens, listening to her throughout his discography. It was kind of like, she's not our daughter, but it's that moment of being proud because here she is getting her own song, and to me, she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, she's knocked up forever.
Yeah, it's a proud moment. So
she's still young too. I think she's still in high school.
I believe she's 16 now. I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember what I searched for, but I found a YouTube channel that was Mackenzie O'Gwen, and in it they had her 15th birthday party. Might have been her 16th, and I knew it was her because it showed Travis. And I believe that was last year, so she may be getting ready to turn 17.
Cool.
So
she could be the first official singer on Strange, first female singer.
Yep. It'll be dope. I'm probably not going to pick up the album until I hear it to decide if I like it. You know, I don't know if
They'll probably drop an EP first.
Yeah.
Like a little taste.
But it's definitely cool that he put that song out on his Collabos album and it showcased what she can do.
What did you think of the second Strangulation? I think I watched your review for it, but I can't really remember what you said.
I tried so hard, but I couldn't get into it. My biggest problem with that is I put Strangulation 1 on such a pedestal, and when I first listened to Special Effects, it was mediocre to me, but it grew on me. Special Effects actually did grow on me. I liked that album a lot, but when it first came out, I was like, man, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this. So when Strangulation Volume 2 was coming out, I was like, this album is going to be awesome because the first one was. And then I started listening to it, and it's like, No, no, not like it. So
It's got some solid tracks on it, but yeah, I'd have to agree number one's better.
what was it? The Chili Rub. That's all. That's pretty dope.
Oh yeah,
And you listen to that song. I've actually been listening. I've been in here jamming it, and Megs just looked at me. She's like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" I was like, "It's Tech Nine."
yeah, it's Chili Rub.
Uh huh.
And I don't really care for how he decided to give other people those classic beats. Granted,
Yeah.
like Come Gangsta, I think Stevie Stone did a great job on
Yeah.
Come Gangsta. I like Seth's Crew, but I don't think they did the best job on it. I think Big Scoop and JL really killed that the Whip It beat from Cut Calhoun. I think that was good, but towards the tail end of Strange Relation 2, it starts out so hype. And then it just kind of...
Yeah. Yeah, Stevie Stone's verse, his cipher was definitely a favorite. Because, I mean, I was listening to the I think that one was the second cipher. Was that the first?
I think it was the first after Tex.
So I listened to like what Seth's Crew was doing. They weren't going with the beat at all. And for me, that's a big no-no. I don't like when rappers just rap and rumble over the beat and they're not going with the flow. Stevie Stone he pulled off a Tech, at the beginning of it, how it's real soft and slow with the dun, dun, he's talking and then he's da, 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 and he starts,
right.
and I'm like, you pulled it off, man. Because I kind of looked at that album and those ciphers and I was like, this was a mistake because Tech Nine's already set a high bar of what he did with those beats, and now he wants his artists to do the same thing. Naturally, they're not going to do as good as he did, but Stevie Stone, he did great.
Definitely. That could have been a business decision on his part for people just checking out strange music too, because they might not even know Come Gangsta, which is a shame. But they might be like, oh, let me hear the original one, and then they go pick up Everready. So.
And I'm just going to, Chris Calico, what he did with his was pretty cool. He's just like, here we go again.
Yeah. Calico's awesome.
Yeah, he is. I really should listen to more of his music and make a better effort to get into him. I really should because I do like him.
I definitely say check out Kicking and Screaming and Genius. Those are my two favorites from him. Kicking and Screaming has Hello Walls, which of course I did for a daily spirit or a weekly spirit.
Yeah.
So what's on the agenda now?
Well, I think we pretty well covered all of our topics, but we really didn't answer the question of the second question of is Tech Nine going mainstream, because this part is supposed to be the my 2 cents. So, in your opinion, is he going mainstream or will he?
No, I don't think. I really don't think Tech will ever full out go mainstream. He's always had. I don't think a lot of people realize he's always dabbled in the mainstream before this, because a lot of people don't realize a lot of his songs have made it into movies. A lot of songs on Everready made it onto the soundtrack for Alpha Dog. He was a playable character on the game 25 to Life, and they had My Wife, My Bitch, My Girl on there, which that soundtrack also included Blaze's Shotgun. And he's had videos. The first time I ever heard of him, when I saw his video, it was for I'm a Tell on BET Late Night. And I'm not going to get into why I was watching BET Late Night, because they showed a lot of uncensored videos on there. But I'm a Tell was on there. So ever since the beginning, he's had his toe in. He was just never really fully there until now. So I think now I'm sticking with tech will never go mainstream. Mainstream will go tech. He's just going to pull people into his world because he's already created the world, created the following. And I think it'd be stupid for him to just full out just do a whole album that sounds like See Me with Wiz Khalifa. So I don't think he'll ever go mainstream. I think he has that independent power to do whatever he wants. He'll do whatever he wants, but I don't see him. As I say, they finally opened up the door for the dude with the red nose.
Yeah. That's pretty well where I'm at. If people was to tell me that he's sold out or he's gone mainstream, I'll say no. I think he's got the mainstream's attention, and he's doing what he said he would do. He would have them go tech. Tech Nine isn't mainstream. He's his own stream. He's that guy standing in a river with a bottle of oil, and he's corrupting the stream of water with him.
Right. And I'm a pull a quote from that water-headed idiot CPN. He made a video. I can't really remember which one it was, but it's underground artists, and people always bitching about artists going quote unquote mainstream. Well, they've never been offered the kind of money that Tech's been offered. You know, he has family, he has kids that are going into college now. So he's a businessman, and he's going to do what's best for business. And these underground artists, they'll say, I'll never sell out, I'll never go mainstream, I'll never do this and that, you know, kind of like, you know, ICP did, but now we see where they are now. You know, they're about on the same level as Tech, just everybody hates them in the mainstream. So nobody's ever been offered, these artists have never been offered the opportunities and the kind of money that the underground artists, they're saying, I'll never sell out, I'll never go mainstream, and all that stuff. So that's where I'm at with it. They don't get the opportunities that these people do. So if I was Tech Nine, and you know, I worked my ass off to get where I am, and Lil Wayne says I'm going to put you on my album, why not? Which a lot of people don't know, the song that he did on Lil Wayne's album, Lil Wayne isn't even on the fucking song.
Right. It's him and Andre 3000, right?
Yeah, which is an awesome collaboration because Andre 3000 is a great rapper. He's considered one of the best rappers ever from one of the greatest rap groups ever, Outkast.
That's what's cool about that. I know Tech Nine has wanted to work with Andre 3000. So what does Lil Wayne do? He takes both of those features and puts them in one track by themselves.
He's working with some of the greats.
And of course, Tech Nine murdered that song too.
Oh god, yeah. Oh god, yeah. People were like, "Lil who?" after they heard that. They're like, "What the fuck?"
Yep.
So that's about it. So what? So your opinion? We're about the same. Tech will never go mainstream. Mainstream's going tech. He just has that exposure.
He's got their attention. So
they've always been fighting for.
And I mean, I'm kind of on the level. I don't think he would go mainstream, but if he did, like if he's on MTV every fucking week, he's on the radio, which he's getting radio play now. But if he's reaching a mainstream level of success, but still doing him and still representing and acknowledging juggalos, I'm still going to be a fan.
Oh, hell yeah.
Unless he totally fucking sells out, completely changes the way he does his music, completely changes everything about him, says fuck juggalos, fuck ICP, they never helped me out, then yeah, I mean, obviously I'm like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But I don't see it come to that. He's a really humble guy.
Nah, yeah, I don't see that happening. He'd be stupid to do it.
He would be stupid. He'd be...
Yeah. There goes your career.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not your career, but your...
There was a large chunk of your fan base right there.
Because let's face it, I mean, I know people who listen to strange music don't listen to Psychopathic Records. Juggalos are all about the physical product. They're
Yeah.
all about, they're the ones buying the albums. I mean, they're the ones that love to have the collection and the CD racks and all this stuff and the coins and the coin collection. You know, average motherfucker that just listens to Tech Nine really isn't going to care to pick that kind of stuff up. It's the juggalos that love the collecting.
Right.
They know it.
There's a lot of his fans that probably just listen to it and say they're a fan. And then you've got juggalos that are saying they're a fan and they're actually buying the CDs and wearing the T-shirts.
Exactly. But like I said, I know people who just listen to strange music, but they're still buying albums. But I can't say that's the majority.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tech Nine's the shit.
Yep.
I
Strange music for life, baby.
yeah, I think he's exploded now that we're slobbing on his knob. But it happens. It happens.
All right. So I guess if there's nothing else to be said, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Apparently,
Yeah.
Chaos didn't end up showing up. So if you're watching Chaos, sorry, man, you missed out. All right. Thank you guys for watching. And stick around. Subscribe to Carnival Spirits. We're dropping dope videos all the time.
Oh, yeah.
See ya.